There are two kinds of people watching this video. The first have zero idea in communication or whatsoever. The second, you're pretty good communicator, but when it comes time to speak, your head goes blank. You don't know what you're doing. Before we move into today's video, I want you to comment down below which category you fall in. Why learn this thing called communication? Why learn the power of articulacy? The first is you have to be a formidable opponent. The ability to marshalize your words and to come across as articulate is a superpower, because now you can defend your ideas, you can defend yourself, both in a debate or any situation you find yourself that requires intellectual prowess. Second is it makes you stand out in the dating pool. You are able to attract the opposite sex. 80% of people can't complete a sentence without stuttering, without and if you do not fall into that description, you immediately stand out in the dating pool. Humans crave novelty, especially women. They crave novelty. So if you can provide and fill that need, you have a 90% chance of getting into a relationship with this person you admire. Also, looking at it from the corporate world, you are able to land that job because being articulate, being a good communicator breeds confidence. So you have the confidence not just to ask for that raise, but to clearly and articulately put and state why you are qualified for that raise. So majority of people, when they want to get a raise, they go out and start watching these motivational videos on confidence, which is good by the way. But if you're trying to gain confidence, you don't get number two. But if you focus on number two, you get number one. That's the third thing. So let's get into today's video. Today's video being the first point. Let's address the first point. Now, I'm not going to give you 7 things to do or try to make this video as long as possible in order to utilize whatever system of the world. No, I'm going to go straight to the point, and I want you to pay rapt attention. I will need you to be very intense with what you're about to hear, because this information would not only cause a ripple effect in your life, but think of if your income increases today and your speaking increases today, it means that you are able to attract a partner that's more optimal than what you had previously. So the kind of kids you have change. So you see how this small tiny tweak can alter the whole trajectory of your life. So while you're listening to me, imagine your child listening to me through you and all that are connected to you. Imagine everybody that you're going to teach this knowledge also listening. So pay very rapt attention. The first one is to know your content. As basic and as underrated as this sounds, this is one of the difficulties people face. No matter how articulate and how intelligent and how smart, regardless if you are a dictionary, if you do not know what you're going to say, you're eventually going to stutter. If you do not know what your con- if you don't know what your content is, if you do not know the reason behind your communication, you're eventually going to stutter. At best, you would speak in sentences. In other words, here's the product. We should do this tomorrow. So your words are not coherent. You're not building on each other. It's just a bunch of sentences, disjointed communication. That's what I like to call it. So you put a preposterous amount of effort into virtually saying nothing. You don't want to be that guy. So know your content. Know your content is one of the most fundamental rules in the space of communication. The second is to read. Read. I'm not this guru. I'm not trying to tell you read and change your life. No. But in reading, it helps fill your mind with rich words. Not only does it give you access to vocabularies, but it also gives you access to sentence structures. So while you're reading a book, don't just read to fulfill a task, to check off the box, to rid yourself of guilt, but read with intent. when you read a sentence that you feel it resonates with you, or you read a sentence that has been articulately and so artfully crafted that is enough to grasp your attention, highlight that sentence. Try to refine it in your own words. It's in that refining process that you see the gaps in your communication. For instance, there was a time I was reading this book. It's called The 48 Laws of Power. And it was so, the author, Robert Greene, he speaks in this metaphorical way which I admire a lot. I'm trying to think of one sentence. There's this sentence: the price you would pay is meager, or the satisfaction you derive in humiliating others is meager compared to the price, or compared to the knowledge that he or she might be in the position of power to hurt you someday. So I try to refine that sentence. I believe this is my own refination process, but he said it in such a metaphorical way that it caught my attention. So it's in this reiteration process that you get better. The second is the second sub point in that reading. If you've gotten up onto this video, up onto this point, the question will be, what do I read? There are a ton of books to read. I would tell you to read business books, because business books have been so artfully created, because their audience is quite large as opposed to fiction and non-fiction. They have a kind of gender bias. But when it comes to business, it's an it's a genderless book. So there's been so much refinement and rewriting put into it. Imagine how much effort the author and finances that was decimated into the production of that masterpiece. So take advantage of it. Highlight, read books, read business books. And if you've been reading business books, change your vocabulary, because you will notice that your lexicon is limited to the business parallel. When the communication begins to diverge into other things that pertains to life, you begin to stutter. I'm sure most of you have experienced that scenario. The idea is you think you're smart until the conversation is shifted from a business to another thing that's totally unrelated. Then you become stunted. So opt for history, opt for something different if you're already reading business books. So there are 2 points which I highlighted here: know your content and read. Now we go to the second point, which is, majority of you are fine communicators. You put in effort. You know your shit. But when it comes time for you to speak, your head instantly goes back, especially with women, the opposite gender. So the first thing you have to correct is your intention. When you're going into a communication stand, don't go in to be perfect or to be the best. Go to connect, because that perfectionism creates anxiety. And when you're anxious, you go into the fight or flight mode. So the fight or flight mode, the brain energy focuses on the thing, or channels energy to parts of your body which are for fight and flight. That's why you end up, after two sentences, you run away. That's all it is. So be calm. Try to connect. Have genuine conversation, as opposed to these boring interview questions. How are you? Fine. Have you eaten lunch today? Fine. No. Then it becomes quiet and silent. That's how most of your conversation go. That's by the way. So go in and connect genuinely, and your conversation will be transformed. I hope with these few points you have been transformed, and if implemented correctly, you will see immediate results. Not tomorrow, not 2 days, not 3 days, now. As always, my friends, it's a pleasure speaking to you guys.